My name is Azunna Anyanwu. I'm a fractional CIO and a digital transformation expert for Galson, your trusted tech resource. It is absolutely the CIO's role to drive that alignment. Every organization does kind of goals differently, right? So there are strategic priorities that are set, maybe a vision, right? Kind of goals for the year. And so I think the first thing that the CIO needs to do is understand what those goals are, right? Are we trying to increase revenue? Are we trying to improve our margins? Are we trying to reduce operating expenses, right? And so once you understand what the goals are for the organization, is to provide a framework, right? And there are different frameworks. One that kind of comes to mind is OKRs, right? Objectives, key results. So there are different frameworks by which IT can then help the organization operationalize those goals. Then the next thing is to show them how technology can help enable those goals, right? So if the goal, like I said, is to increase, kind of profitability, or what are the things that are a drag on profitability today, right? So what are the things that will enable people to be able to do a better job of selling, right? Maybe you need to close more deals. Well, how does technology kind of help that? So that's the way that I would kind of align the two, right? First is the CIO absolutely needs to know what the organization. Gone are the days where the CIO's role is just to keep everything up and running, right? Make sure we've got our emails fine, make sure, we've not been hacked. It goes far, far, far beyond that. How does a CIO help the organization? How does a CIO implement technology that helps the organization improve business outcomes? That is the thought that they need to have each and every day that they're going into the organization. That is what they need to be sharing back to that executive kind of committee, to the board, whatever, in terms of these are the things that we're going to do. These are the systems we're going to put in place. These are the process initiatives we're going to improve. These are the trainings that we're going to do to improve our people's abilities so that we can achieve that goal. Peter Drucker has a quote, "Culture will eat strategy for lunch." And I'm a firm believer in that. An organizational culture is critical to how well or how likely they are to succeed at a digital transformation initiative. The biggest challenge that I see is resistance to change. There are literally certain industries that are well known, and even within certain industries, there are certain groups or service areas or lines of business that are well known to be resistant to change. We've always done it this way, right? They can't foresee a future in which it's done differently. And this doesn't always have to do with the generational divide, right? The boomers versus Gen X versus Gen Z. I've seen some Gen X people think like boomers, right? Because they were groomed and taught in a certain way. And so that is their approach to life, even, as it relates to kind of technology. So that resistance to change, that kind of, I would say, fear and kind of unwillingness to try different things is a huge, huge, huge challenge. The way that I overcome it is you really have to be able to paint a vision. You have to be able to paint a picture of what that change looks like. Imagine your employees happier. Imagine your clients more satisfied. Imagine people being able to go home at the end of the day, right? At the end of a 8 or 9 or 10 hour day, as opposed to a 14 or 16 or 18 hour day from that perspective. So that is the biggest thing that I kind of approach, is to show them this is what this technology-enabled outcome looks like for your organization. Along with that resistance to change is a willingness to change. And so the question really is, after they've seen the vision, right? It's one thing for you not to, for an organization not to be, ready or willing to change when they haven't seen the vision. But after they've seen the vision, what is their appetite for that change? And I find that a lack of leadership buy-in is actually one of the biggest detractors. In a lot of cases, the staff, the employees are actually more willing to change. It's actually the leaders who are not willing to champion, who are not willing to kind of get behind it. And so that is really what I try to focus on. Paint that vision, help them kind of see what that change does for the organization. And last but not the least, a big part of, kind of my brand, the Agile CIO, is iterative and incremental improvement, right? How do I rapidly introduce that change into the organization? Not too fast, but in a way where they're not waiting 5 years to see the outcomes of the thing that they're investing in. So that's probably the biggest thing for me, is really just painting that vision, helping them see it, and then helping them start to see pieces of that vision manifested sooner rather than later. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and I'm gonna say something a bit controversial. I think the desire for balance is the wrong focus. It's no different from the concept of work-life balance, and people are always trying to figure out that kind of work-life balance. I think some of it is table stakes. You need to be secure. You need to be compliant. You need to be stable, right? Your business is not gonna operate. So if I have a 50-year-old business and I implement a cloud transformation, an AI initiative, whatever, and I'm not able to serve my clients, guess what? I'm gonna be out of business very quickly. And so I think the issue isn't so much balance, it's reframing the question in the guise of how do we do what we need to do, transform, modernize, in a secure manner, in a compliant manner. And that's the challenge, that's the harder question. Far too often, firms think technology is a magic bullet. Well, if I just put AI in, all my problems are solved. Well, that's not the case, right? You still need to do that in a secure manner. So do you want an AI that now starts telling your customers the wrong information or your employees the wrong information? Do you want an AI that starts to share client information across different clients, like recently happened with a major tax platform? You don't. So you have to do it securely. You have to do it in a way that complies with legal and regulatory and financial, risk kind of an environment. You have to do that in a way that doesn't disrupt your kind of operation. So again, a little bit controversial. It's not about balance. It's about thinking about it more strategically. I need to do this, but I can't give up the rest of the compliance, security, stability that I need to do that. So how do I do that securely? And so once you have that framework of, we're gonna do this, but we're gonna do that with these constraints, I think it helps you ultimately get to the right outcome. My background started with, as a software developer and a systems integration. And so back then it was, secure coding standards, for example, right? OWASP and the like. And it's the same exact kind of principle. So the old school of thought is, well, develop the code and then we'll do the testing and the security at the back end. The new school of thought is, no, let's develop this code securely from the get so that by the time we get to testing, by the time we get to implementation, we don't have to do a bunch of retrofits to make the code work or work securely for our customers. And so I think the same thing applies, with firms that are undergoing these digital initiatives. You have to do it, but you have to do that in a way that is consistent with compliance, security, and stability. I try to speak the language of the business. And I hate that kind of term, business as if IT is not part of the business, but I'll use that for the purposes of this exercise. So what is it that transformation is supposed to do? So as an example, we wanted to reduce the number of hours our team spends in some manual activity. We want to reduce it from X to Y. We want to increase profitability from X to Y. So being able to translate or being able to tie the outcomes of that transformation to the key objective, basically, that the organization is trying to solve is the way that I kind of, communicate that. One big one for me with almost every transformation project is adoption 6 months, a year down the line. If I've implemented a new solution and the vast majority of the firm is not using it in 6 months or in 12 months, it's a failure as far as I'm concerned, right? Doesn't matter what I think about it, doesn't matter, but the reality is if people aren't using the systems that have been put in place, it's a sign that it has failed in terms of its, so that's a very easy one, is in terms of just the adoption of the technology. But beyond the technology, I would say it really depends on what the transformation is. A big piece of it is, before even initiating that transformation, is understanding why are we doing this. Far too often, companies come to the table with these digital transformation initiatives and they're doing it because the firm down the street did it. They're doing it because they heard it's the next big thing, AI, blockchain, whatever you have it. They haven't really thought critically around how it's supposed to improve the way they do business, how it's supposed to improve their client experience, how it's supposed to improve their employee experience, how it's supposed to make their jobs more effective. So being able to measure that, even just kind of developing a baseline, and then being able to show those results, like I said, 6 months, 12 months down the line, we went from X to Y as a result of putting in this system. This is literally what I deal with day to day in my role as a fractional CIO is trying to help companies change their mindset. At the end of the day, it comes down to a belief. And part of that belief is these firms can do their business without technology or without really leveraging the technology the way it's supposed to be leveraged to help them meet their goals. So the first thing I have to do is really help them understand how technology does enable business transformation. The next thing I have to do is help them to change that mindset. For those that have a mindset of IT as being a cost center, in a lot of cases because they don't see the value out of IT. They see IT as maybe just a help desk. They see IT as just the infrastructure running, and they treat it as a utility. And part of my job is to come in and help them understand that IT is so much more than that, right? And so part of that is I actually take it up as a challenge kind of personally to understand what is their strategic imperative, what is their strategic priority, what is it that they've been struggling to do without IT, and come along and try to partner with them on how to solve that problem. So as an example, I had a firm, had a lot of issues around recognizing revenue. They do the work for the clients, and then the whole process of billing and invoicing and receiving payments was just like a complete pain, and they were always having issues with kind of cash flow. And so I did a business process reengineering exercise with them where we understood all the different players, all the different pain points, and then I was able to bring to bear the proper technology to help them understand that. They'd never seen that before. So in their mind, again, technology is this cost center, it's just the table stakes, and I was able to show them how the right technology with a proven or well-executed kind of process can actually reduce friction in their environment, can reduce the manual hours that are being spent, can reduce the manual labor that's involved in these processes, and result in the outcomes that they want, which ultimately is they want to be able to bill their clients faster. They want to be able to receive payments more effectively. So making it easier for clients to pay them, making it easier for them to generate the bills in a timely manner, all those things kind of came together. But it takes a lot, right? I mean, a lot of that is gaining the trust of that person because unfortunately they have had a lot of bad experience with IT, and that's why they think of it just as a cost center.